Welcome to another segment of Politics Done Right. I'm here with the one and only Bruce Pollard. Bruce Pollard is a former scientist for several major corporations, and you know what? He turned political activist. This guy is a great guy. He's been making sure that the progressive movement moves forward by not only his intellect, but his support. Anyhow, Bruce Pollard, how are you doing, my brother?
I'm doing great. It's great. It's great to be here. And my number one point is this climate problem, but it's further off from the problems that we have right now. So I'm looking at that too.
I know, but let me tell you something, Bruce. Because when you called me today, you called me and said, "Hey, Egberto, that number, the way they're talking about those curves, it's not right. The curve, they're saying the curve's flattening, but it's not so." Bruce, when you told me that, I said to myself, the Trump administration have been fooling people. I don't think a lot of what was done with the curves are necessarily intentional, but I think the interpretation given by others or so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the curve up on the table, or rather on the screen, and you start explaining to us what you were trying to tell me today.
Yeah. So, really what I think is happening is it takes a little while for science to work itself out. And we've got great scientists in the United States and around the world, but it takes a while to understand these things. And for sure, we're starting to understand what the COVID virus does that makes it different from all the rest. But still, there are some things that are the same as the flu virus. And that is, no matter what we do to try and stop it, it's always going to still have some effect to us. And if you look, for example, at the graphs that are coming out from Bill Gates' organization, not really Bill Gates' organization, but the University of Washington, that's funded by Bill, the graphs are very, kind of the same on both sides. We call that symmetric. And they go back down to zero, which makes it look like by perhaps the end of June, or maybe even sometime in June, there won't be any more people dying of COVID. But I just don't think that's true. Because if you look at the flu has this ramp that goes back up. So what I tried to do on this graph on the other side is, you can see all these graphs, they go down and they sit at zero. But that's not the way it really goes. It's going to sit down up at something. There's still going to be perhaps 100 or more deaths per month until we really solve it, which is going to be a long while. And I think that that's going to be something which is going to change the way that we live. And it's important for people to start understanding that, and especially the news people who are going, "Oh, I like this other side." They got to start looking at what the actual condition's going to be. And it's going to rival the flu. There's going to be people for the next many years which are going to have the problem with this as the virus changes its form. As we get a little bit better in the way of treating it. It's actually exciting because they're starting to do some really great science and seeing what's causing the deaths with this particular virus is different from the other ones. And that a really tough, strong pumping of the air isn't the best thing to do, but a soft pressing or just oxygen available is a better thing. So I think they're starting to understand the treatment. It takes a while for those things to happen, Bruno.
Now, let me ask you something, Bruce, because I think the mere fact that you're telling me the steady state is that we're going to probably have 100 or so or whatever amount of deaths over the next few months. It also means that we're going to have a constancy of contagious people, which means at any given time, if we don't continue with the practices that we've started with the isolate, what is it called, isolation or
added distance, all that's different.
Right. If we don't keep that up, any one of those 100 deaths that's occurring sort of at a constancy could actually materialize itself into an explosion again.
Yeah. I don't think we'll have to be wearing masks forever, but depending upon how we really understand how the disease transforms, and how it transmits from one person to the next, we're going to have to do different things. We won't be giving people hugs. We won't be, I mean, you know how like when French people meet each other, they give each other a kiss on each cheek? That won't happen.
You
Uh,
know, I'm from Central America, Latin America, and that is going to be one of the hardest things. You know, we are so used to big hugs and a chest, I mean,
it's
it is
going to be
just a
secure at
culture.
a distance.
It's going to be a cultural change because, like I said, we meet people, it's a big hug. It was bad enough when Me Too came about. Even here in Kingwood, everybody that I meet, it's always a hug. Hey, Berto, how you doing? And the last time I had a meeting, and I'm about to hug this young lady. Both of us are in the motion of hugging, and I pulled back, and it's like, what's wrong? And it's like, you're scared about Me Too, the Me Too movement, and now you're scared about the virus. It is sort of, wow, we are kind of taking out the socialization out of social, right?
Yeah, so there'll be new ways of showing respect to each other. For example, in Picard, they do this to each other. Um, I think that there'll be new ways that we'll be expressing our respect for each other, and that's important.
Yeah, there's nothing of. I just have to say this, Bruce, just myself. I giving up the hug is going to be very difficult, and it's going to take some
Yeah.
practice because you see somebody that we've been apart for a very long time now. It's going to be quite interesting, and it's going to be quite interesting. But when you spoke about the curves, I think about the graphs. I think it is so important now. One of the reasons I said, "Hey, Bruce, don't just tell me about this. Come on air and say it as well," is
Yeah.
because I think people have to come to that understanding and realize that we're going to be constantly near a potential explosion given that.
So it really takes, even though science happens fast, it really does take a while for us to sort things out, especially in the medical field, where you need to have good scientists, which most of our, bless those all the people that are working in that space. They're, in dangerous way, but they're starting to sort this out, and there's a lot of importance. I mean, they're trained to observe and understand and pay attention and mark those charts down and keep track of the instrument the stuff. Um, you'd think artificial intelligence would be better, but I did a search of the artificial intelligence, and 90% of the artificial intelligence that I found around COVID was all about economy. And it's
That
not
tells you
about
something.
economy yet.
That tells you something,
It's
doesn't it?
about keeping alive.
That tells you something, doesn't it? It tells you, this is a short change of subject, folks. Excuse me, but Bruce just hit a nerve. Bruce, you just tell me that as you were researching with artificial intelligence, COVID-19, most of what you got was economic answers.
Yeah.
That just tells you something that we preach all the time on Politics Done Right. The economic system that we have right now, it is capital first, humanity second.
Yeah,
If
so
that.
the economic system, I mean, for example, our black population is suffering by far more than our other racial population.
Right.
And if you sit and you look at the root cause, I do these things called root cause analyses all the time. I think if I sat with the people and did a root cause analysis, it would be an economic thing that's
Always
put
economic.
the black population in the world of hurt.
Again, I did, my daughter drove through Appalachia. And the reason I like to use Appalachia as an example is because I always said that the best ally, the people that should be allies in this country, and you hear me say it on the show all the time, Appalachia, the barrios, and the ghettos. It's stereotypical, the statement, but if those groups got together, they would realize, first of all, they have more in common than not, and also together they make up the majority of the country and would exert a hell of a power in the system. Bruce, look, I want to first of all thank you so kindly for giving me your time and pointing that out with the graphs, because I think it is something that needed to be shared throughout.
Well, thanks for giving me a chance to say something. I'm going to keep hunting forward.
Please do.
And, you know, what you're doing is something that not all of us have the chutzpah to go ahead and push forward. And I bless you for it.
Well, let me tell you, Bruce, we couldn't do it without good people like you in the world. So, I mean, this is all of us bring what we need to bring to move forward, and we all do it. And no one is more important than the other. So thank you for what you do as well, my brother.
Let's see what we can do all together.
Absolutely. You have a wonderful day, and thanks for being on Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, host of Politics Done Right, an independent news program. I post several news videos of interest every day. I ask you so kindly to subscribe to my channel, and please leave me some comments. Thank you very much.